You gotta let's hear your second intro.
So the first intro I was laying down in bed, and I did it like right before you heard it. Not again, because that was definitely somebody came to me and was like, that was a bad intro. I was like, I said it was gonna be a bad intro. So on to intro 2, which just happened. Talking about my bad intro for one.
It's the story of intros. That
is.
chair might pick up every creak that you do.
I didn't notice that it was creaking until you just said something. So I gotta
It
move
creaks
now.
constantly. While he's adjusting his seat, I just want to have a disclaimer from the first episode. There are multiple times where it sounds like I'm accosting someone, and you would think, without having any video, that I'm accosting Ben, but I'm not. I'm yelling at my cats from doing things around him. So if you're wondering why Angelo sounds like maybe like a little angry at random times, it's just because I'm doing hard parenting. That's it.
You know, I didn't think about that at all. So that's just in case.
When I was listening, I just kept being like, and that's the part where I start yelling at the cats. So my apologies. Try to be better. But just in case it happens, that's the reason.
That's so everybody knows. But welcome again, I guess, to Are We Watching? I don't know why I say I guess. I don't even know why I say welcome after a while. This is Are We Watching? Today, or this moment, whenever you decide to listen to this, because it's going to live on in perpetuity forever.
Mm-hmm. In the digital consciousness.
The digital consciousness. There was some recently good news. No, actually, I don't know if it's good news. It could be bad news. I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of good and bad. And it was MCU saying they're trying to get better on their stories, but they canceled a lot of things.
Yeah.
And the good part of it is hopefully we're trying to get better at our stories and not put out a billion projects part is good. Hopefully it could like narrow things down and tell better stories.
Yeah, I think that they're taking like a lot of, one of the biggest critiques of projects that they've put out is that like they feel unfinished at times, especially with the stuff on Disney Plus. Like that things should have been longer, things could have been more fleshed out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're taking that from the criticisms or if it's these things need to make more money. And we need to make more money on these things, and the best way to do that is to do less of them, which is the Warner Brothers problem, right?
True, because you can't say we're gonna do less, but we're also gonna have shitty ass quality.
Yeah.
Compared to all these things, because that does affect it. It's the Warner Brothers problem with their movies that they had. You had the first Aquaman, people loved it because they thought it was fun and entertaining, and then with the second story, I don't know what happened to the second story, but people just did not have the same reception to it.
Really?
It didn't do well in the box office. It didn't have the same reception.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was coming out until I saw those release trailers where it's like this movie's already out, and I just assumed that the movie that was made for, those people would really like it. That's not really my cup of tea. I watched the first one.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fun. I liked it more than I thought I was going to, but I was like, I'm not going to watch the second one.
No.
I'm not going to do this again.
I think anything from Zack Snyder era did not do them justice, as in stories, because stuff that came sort of post Zack Snyder's, like Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle didn't end up doing good, but I think
Blue Beetle was awesome.
Yeah, I think that was just a sign of the time where people still weren't really invested in going to the theaters again.
Yeah.
Because Blue Beetle was...
It was fun.
It was very fun. It was very entertaining. And when it dropped on HBO Max, which I think originally they wanted to make Blue Beetle a movie for for streaming,
Oh, like
and
a
then they
direct to
pulled it
streaming.
out. But HBO Max has shot up to being number one for a minute.
Yeah, it got a lot more hype once people were able to watch it. I saw it in theaters. I took my whole family.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to do so, and so I took my whole family to go see it, and everybody enjoyed it. But you bring up the good point. That is, like, when it comes to streaming specifically, we're living in that era now where I think everybody, and when I mean everybody, I mean the companies themselves are kind of looking into, they're like, okay, this model that we created in 2020, essentially,
Yeah.
to, you know, get people, basically to get money in our pockets from people without them going to the theaters. This is a weird model now because theaters are open. People are, for the most part, going back to them. It's not like how it was. But at the same time, I think they're rethinking what that model looks like. And that's why I think we see a lot of back and forth where it's like, but every time they do that, it just hurts. It hurts the project. They're not looking at it as projects, I think. I feel like they're looking at it as these investments that they're putting into.
It definitely is, because way before the pandemic, I don't think people forgot. Well, people might have forgotten about it, but we've always had direct to screen movies.
Yeah.
There's always been things, and you realize, like, watching them, there's never really been a beef about direct to TV movies at all. There wasn't a real big, this is an issue.
Yeah.
Should have been, it was fine. People understood what it was,
Yeah.
and they did well. And
I think, I'm trying to think of a good example of one, especially on streaming, because Netflix has been putting out movies since Netflix existed. You know what I mean?
And then is to speak to the whole thing where it's like an investor thing trying to get more money.
Yeah.
They're doing away with the idea like that should not exist anymore, or that doesn't exist. It's like, no, there's movies that will do very well doing that. And again, Blue Beetle being the case, did very well when it went to streaming.
Yeah.
It should not have been in theaters at all.
Yeah.
And it sucks to say, because I know some people want those big things to be those pops for them.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that aren't going to pop that well, and going to show up as well in a theater compared to a direct streaming type of model. And if they have to get back into that mentality of
what's what.
Yeah, exactly. Because I agree. I don't think right now that is the mindset of what's what. It's what can we gain the most money out of, and how do we all push it towards one type of thing or screw somebody else out of it.
Yeah. But it sucks because when you're looking at it from a fan standpoint, which we both are just in general, we mentioned Warner Brothers, and the big thing was, I think everyone talks about the Batgirl thing, right? They like made that whole movie, like the movie was made, it was essentially done, and then they canned it. And that's crazy.
It is. They've done it, but that's their model. That's their thing now, because they did it with Coyote versus Acme.
Yeah.
Another movie that is finished, that the stars loved. The people who were in it, who got to actually see it, they said they liked the movie. They really liked the movie, and it is canned. It is scrapped. And that is just a fuck you to everybody who is a fan of these type of things.
Especially, I mean, like, that's the thing that is so stressful about that is, I think after that had happened, people, I think, are more realizing that these are IPs that these companies have, and in some instances, they are truly just like, we have to make this thing. And then with that being the case, they have the option to kind of take them back. And that's crazy. They just have a lot of power, and that's difficult. And you talk about the stuff in the MCU, and I think the difference about the MCU and the things that they've been kind of canceling or like stopping projects from maybe continuing or like in development. I don't know what stage a lot of these projects technically could be in.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is that like these are all of these projects are a part of a shared universe, which is a really, really ambitious thing to have done. And I think now, as a fan of the MCU and as a fan of like comic book content existing, I've always really more excited for when they got to the point where they were able to do these funky one-off stuff.
Yeah.
Because I understood like why at first you have these big movies like Iron Man and Captain America, Thor, which in hindsight aren't really big movies because those characters weren't that popular. They were characters that people knew, but the movies and the energy that they brought made them popular. So it's one of those things where, and then once they had become part of a shared universe and they were working towards something, I thought, oh, that's cool. And as they started doing Avengers stuff and everything like that, I was like, okay, but at one point we can get some really weird stuff that they have the opportunity to kind of like do off the cuff things that aren't necessarily these like huge budget things. And then I think the first example of that was Netflix doing their little pocket with the Daredevil show.
Oh, man.
Jessica Jones, which I really liked the first season of. I watched all of it. I liked the second season too. Doesn't matter. Like those shows, I liked the first season of Luke Cage. Those like that different kind of vein that they were telling of storytelling, I really, really enjoyed. And I'm like, okay, we're getting there.
Yeah.
But now I think we're at a point, and I do think that once again, I think 2020, I think the pandemic had a huge effect as to what this was supposed to be, because Disney Plus big launch happened at the same time. Because I remember when Disney Plus was like announced, like I believe it was 2019, they did like a Comic-Con or like some expo, and they announced a bunch of titles.
They did.
And it was like She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, all of those titles got announced on the same day. And this was after we already knew that things like WandaVision and stuff like that were coming out. And it was kind of like, holy shit, they're going to be doing really weird stuff like with these characters that aren't big budget characters.
They're really trying to expand and stretch their content that they had.
Stuff for people that like, the people that are going to give a shit about She-Hulk are comic book fans, typically.
Yeah.
Like Miss Marvel, same thing. Moon Knight, those are characters where you're like, no, they don't have any real peripheral awareness in media. So that's going to be for us, right, as a comic book fan. But those obviously didn't end up coming out until last year, the year before.
Years later.
Significantly many years later. So the whole model that Disney had for the Disney Plus streaming thing got completely changed. And I think now we're looking at it almost like we're looking at what these are fractions or like fragmented versions of the things that I think they were originally going to do.
It definitely feels like that, because also on the other side of it, the way that they're absorbing Hulu into themselves.
Yeah.
It really feels like the biggest reason they're absorbing Hulu into themselves, at least here stateside, is because trying to make up for that subscriber loss type of thing. More so is just a numbers type of thing instead of keeping it separate, because it was when they both were out, there were separate things that they were doing, which was fine. Yeah. And it was no problem. But I don't know if it's because of some people left Hulu or some people left Disney Plus. Right. And they're just like, let's just try to get all these people together. And put them all in the room. And their issue too with all that is still raising the fucking prices all the goddamn time, which pisses me off when they do it, because it's always, we raise the prices because we're trying to make better content, but we're canceling the content that you want to actually see. That's the issue. And we're not paying our writers and our people that we should be paying. Exactly, which we have just kind of gotten out of this huge fight for that. Yeah, so you're just pocketing it. But yeah, along those MCU lines of things just not lining up, are them losing sight of shit because they don't know what to do. One of it was the Eternals. The Eternals is really good, in my opinion. I'm glad that I know you wanted to talk about Eternals today, and I couldn't remember what you thought of it, so I'm glad that you had mentioned that. Go on. I enjoyed the movie. We both work with Steve and had to listen to him bitch about it beforehand because he's an ultra Eternals nerd.
Yeah.
Which good for him, fine for him. But then I didn't really know anything about the Eternals.
Right.
And I tried to stay away from all information. And when the movie came out, I got to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Don Lee, Angelina Jolie, favorite characters. They fucking killed the shit.
What a great dynamic.
Yeah. And
Barry Keoghan, that was the first thing I saw him in where I was like, okay, I get it. I understand the appeal that this actor has.
Yeah.
Because I saw Killing of a Sacred Deer and I felt unwell afterwards. And I was like, I never want to see this kid's face again.
oh, man.
And then I saw he was in this and I'm like, great. At least it's an ensemble. But he was one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was a great cast.
Yeah.
The story, I felt the story was good for what it was. It didn't shoot for the moon or anything like that.
No.
They stayed relevant to what they were. And even the fact of having a celestial
I thought
be
that was
part
cool.
of it was all relevant to their story. It didn't feel like things were outstretched or anything. The story that they gave you about their creation and how they came about, it stayed in that realm the whole entire movie, which was cool.
Yeah.
Because it built upon that. The only thing that was frustrating about seeing the Celestial was
They haven't touched on it.
they haven't touched on this frozen Celestial, this marble or whatever material Celestial that's in the North Pole just sticking out of the planet, never to be seen again.
So the thing about Eternals, and I've never been an Eternals comic fan. I gave it a fair shot multiple times throughout my life. Mostly because of I liked the creator that was on it. I gave it a shot, or it tied into X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
Or there's just little things here and there. I was like, I'm gonna give it a fair shot. I think I was given a paperback of some story. I don't even remember whose it was, but I gave it a shot, and I was kind of like, I don't know if this is really my bag. I hadn't read the Jack Kirby original stuff, but even now having gone back and at least understanding more about the creation of that specific franchise, which is a Marvel thing. However, it's always been self-contained.
Yeah.
Because Jack Kirby did the same thing with DC. It was Fourth World?
Yeah, I think that's what he was doing. With
Jack Kirby likes to do these self-contained kind of universes within another universe. And I think when you do stuff like these are beings that exist kind of outside of time and outside of civilization, you can do that. And so I thought that was cool that that's kind of what you get in the movie. I went into it with really, really low expectations because I didn't really care. Not saying I didn't care, but I didn't have a huge connection. But going into it, and I was like, oh, this feels like a serious movie. This has a certain quality to it that makes it feel more, I don't know. It felt like, I think I walked out of there and I was like, this is like Marvel trying to do an A24 film.
Okay, yeah, I get
And
that premise.
I liked that. It's not an A24 film.
Not at all.
But it felt like it was at least like, do you think we can do something like this?
Let's tell sort of a mature, sort of direct story that just happens to be about heroes.
Yeah. It was very artsy. There was a lot of really cool shots. It had a weird pace that kind of let you sit in the shots and the characters that were talking on screen. It has some really good dialogue, has some really good scenes that I think put up a lot of cool metaphorical questions. I just really enjoyed it. However, and I don't know if we talked about this previously, and the reason that you're talking about Eternals also was I think that we probably talked about this after it had come out, about how, what if that was a show?
Yeah.
What if Eternals was an anthology series or something like that on Disney Plus? Like if they had time to do an episode, like a few episodes, but each episode be set in like a different era.
Them throughout their history.
Yeah, and have it kind of culminate into modern day. I think something like that would have really benefited it because, yeah, Eternals did terribly.
It did. Don't know why.
I know why.
People suck. That's why.
It was an adaptation of a relatively cult beloved story from a creator from like the golden age. Well, not actually, but from like the like a quintessential comic book creator turned into a contemporary story that has a diverse cast that doesn't, the scenes weren't showing it almost like appear as like it didn't look like it was going to be an action-y movie. However,
True.
the action in that movie was better than the action in a lot of superhero movies I've seen in the last 5 years.
It was very well put together. It was. The fight scene.
That final scene, like, spoilers, I guess, for a movie that's been out for like 4 years.
Yeah.
But the final fight, I thought was so much more fun than stuff that I had seen in, I don't want to name drop a movie. I can't even think of one that I...
True. They did I don't know who the fight choreographer and the fight director was on that, but they did a hell of a job.
Yeah.
It did look good. It was played out very well and together. Even the fact on how they shot it, because usually you get people who want to do action scenes, and there's so many cuts, there's
Yeah.
so many fakes,
Yeah.
there's so much that they're doing to try to add on to the action without action, which just sucks.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel that way for Eternals, and that was like a standout moment for it.
That's a good point.
But one of the things that also pissed me off about people, the hate that I heard about the Eternals, was we don't know these characters.
Right.
They're not like, how you expect them to get to know these characters like Captain America? And they compared them to other characters that already by that time had 2 or 3 movies.
Yeah.
And shit. And it's like, this is the first movie. This is where you're getting the shit that you're complaining about. Just watch the movie.
Yeah.
And it's answering your question. Oh, I don't know about these characters. They're telling you about these characters. That's
Yeah,
what the
you mean to
movie's
tell me that
about.
you knew everything about Drax the Destroyer when Guardians of the Galaxy came out? You're lying.
Yeah, exactly. And that was some of the shit that I was just super frustrated because it clearly stated to me that there's a section of people who are just bitching to bitch
Yeah.
about nothing.
Yeah,
And
that's my big thing too.
unfortunately, the movie suffered from it. And the other issue that they, again, with canceling things and kind of not being able to, biting up, asking, well, what is it, biting more than you could chew or something like that? That's what it is?
Yeah. I was like, what are you trying to say? I can help you.
I don't get these sayings. But yeah, doing that because it sucks that you try to create this universe, then you do something like that, and they're like, all right, we're going to cancel it. You show Blade in it. I mean, you don't show Blade, but you let Blade be heard in it, and then immediately you said, we're not going to do anything with that.
Not anytime
And it's,
soon.
what?
Yeah.
And then now you have fucking Star Fox show up, Harry Styles at the end of it. And I don't care for Harry Styles, but I was like, oh, this feels...
That makes sense.
This feels interesting.
Yeah.
For what's it? And then you just like, nope. Boom. And then if you look, if you're people like us, fucking nerds, you find out that he was essentially Thanos' brother.
Yeah.
And then boom, now that whole entire thing is just gone.
Yeah.
And it's, why do you do these things? You could have just, instead of saying, hey, we're not going to do Eternals 2,
Yeah.
we're gonna do a miniseries.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't have to be like,
Another big movie.
yeah,
It
another
doesn't have to be a
big movie
trilogy.
thing. It doesn't. You don't have to do things that way.
Yeah.
To get these stories out, and that's again, I guess, going for the money first, and the most dishonest, disingenuous way towards the art that it is.
Yeah.
You're just leaving that behind. You're not treating things the way that they pretty much deserve to be treated.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree because I like I said, I might be biased. I don't think I'm being biased because I don't give a shit about the Eternals. I just genuinely liked that movie.
Yeah, I
It's one of those things where like I think I'm biased, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I went into that pretty objective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Hot take. That was the best Angelina Jolie ever looked in her life.
She was great in it. I thought everyone was really good.
That was like the only time where I could actually be like, you know what, I like this Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I'm sold on it.
The only character I didn't like got her absolute ass beat at the end of it.
Gemma?
No, the Sprite. What was?
Oh yeah. Oh goddamn. Yeah, Sprite was fucking.
That character annoyed
annoying.
the hell out of me the whole time. And then, in a very funny scene, this child gets hit over the back of the head.
Oh, and like we have mentioned about Kamala Khan.
Oh yeah.
With her in the Marvels.
Yeah.
Teenage character, an actual teenager, and she was not insufferable.
No, she was done
And
well, but you had this
you had-
other teenage character that was like
who's hundreds of years old and is insufferable.
so annoying. And that kid got their comeuppance, and then it brought them to a good point. Like at the end of their resolution for that kid, for this immortal child. The character's name's Sprite, right?
Yeah, Sprite.
Whatever. That was the only one I was like, oh, that I was laughing in the theater when that happened. I thought that was so funny. But whatever.
Well deserved.
Yeah, there was a lot. That movie doesn't have any real connotations now. I don't know if it's going to. I think it has. I think that at the point of it, I thought, oh, this is going to have some things that have to do with how they're going to do X-Men stuff moving forward because of the Celestial shit, whatever. There's something that they could do there. I don't think they are. The thing with Black Knight, the thing with Blade, the thing with Arrow, Star Fox. There's so many connections at the end of that movie, or like within that movie's resolution, that I think are just like not going to get picked up.
Now completely lost forever, and yeah.
And maybe they do pick it up. I mean, I don't know. There's a way to do it. What you said earlier, and I think what is a good example of is that I don't know if the powers that be at Marvel, Disney, Marvel Studios, whatever you want to call it, whoever is in charge of that specific option has the vision of the runway that they have in front of them. I think that at this point they have some ideas, but they have the ability to kind of pick and choose, and if something doesn't pan out, then they move on to something else. It's not, can you imagine, like, when the first phase of the MCU was really, really small in project size, and they had one vision. And even though Thor #1, I didn't see in theaters.
Oh, I did.
And after I did see it, I was like, I still don't really like this movie. I saw it after Avengers had come out. I was like, okay, I'll watch this. I still don't really like it. I don't like the second one that much either. It has some parts that I do like. I think it was a bold movie, but like, I didn't see Thor. I still saw Avengers, still got everything that was happening. It doesn't matter. I don't know how well Thor did in theaters, the first one, but I can't imagine it was doing, I can't imagine they did Iron Man numbers.
After the big three, I think they did do under the big three, but it did well enough for them to continue
I guess so, right?
At that time, because even at that time, it was early enough to where they would make the decision.
Those movies didn't cost as much either.
Yeah, they did it. They
didn't cost as much. They weren't making as many. The budget wasn't as sapped for everything else. But I think now they're doing these little things because they can. And if something doesn't work, then they're just stemming that branch. You want to talk about we look at the TVA just to kind of do a form and content. Yeah. It feels very much like they're pruning these stories, like they're pruning these branches if it's not doing the way they want it to.
True.
And that sucks.
Yeah. But it sucks a lot. and again to the expanded story, another person to look at, and I'm being biased on this. People, if they don't like it, fight me. Is James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over DC? I'm really excited. I love
Me
it
too.
because they did that formula. You got the Suicide Squad, which was really good.
So good.
It didn't. I know it didn't kill it in the box office, which is fine because people didn't know what to think about it because it's coming out of the mess that was DC.
That was a weird time.
And then it was a really good movie, and then you make Peacemaker on the series.
And that was really good too.
Yes, and
That Peacemaker was the last. Okay, besides Blue Beetle, I think Peacemaker was probably the last DC project that I watched on purpose and enjoyed it.
And it was unexpected for it to be like, you're going to take this character and make a show out of them? Yeah. And it just shows.
And it rocked.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It shows like how those things should be. But to move away from some of the comic book talk a little bit, it's not enough because there's still, I don't know if they're finished with it, but there was a Godzilla versus Justice League.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't read
And there's Godzilla comics. There's been a bunch.
There's Godzilla comics, but I didn't read none of the Godzilla versus Justice League. But the fucking Godzilla movies that have been out, and America's infatuation with making Godzilla movies, even though it was an analogy for what they did to Japan. And then they're just like, nah, we're gonna take this in, America, hoorah, bitches, Godzilla shit.
I've always been a Godzilla fan. I used to watch the Toho movies. I thought that was really cool. I think that it's weird. I wanted to talk about this because you had mentioned it, and I was like, no, we're definitely talking about this at least for a little bit because as of this point, the fifth movie from the American Godzilla, the MonsterVerse is what they're calling it, I think, right?
Oh, that's what they're trying to do. That's what.
No, that's not it. That's the Universal movie.
Yeah, they're trying to make their own. But
this is the don't at me at what this universe is supposed to be called. But the American kaiju shared King Kong Godzilla universe.
Yeah.
It's the sequel to Godzilla versus Kong, which
Godzilla King of Monsters.
But Godzilla vs. Kong came out after that. That was a sequel to King of Monsters.
I thought this was Godzilla vs. Kong.
No, this is Godzilla vs. Kong 2. This is the sequel to the first Godzilla vs. Kong. This is why I want to talk about it because I have a lot to say.
Can somebody fact check?
No, you didn't, because I saw Godzilla.
You did. I didn't.
I watched Godzilla vs. Kong, the first one.
Oh
on
no,
streaming.
you're right. So okay,
and it made me very mad.
I remember it now. It was that first Godzilla where they brought out this weird monster for no reason, and then it immediately went into him fighting Kong, which was weird. And now they're best friends. Yeah, you're right. This is the third one.
I can't even remember what this new one is called. Damn it, man. I'm completely blanking. It's out right now.
Godzilla.
The
King
New
Kong.
Empire is what it's called. Is that what it's called? That sounds ridiculous.
That sounds Star Warsy.
Yeah, what is the new one called? It doesn't.
Godzilla and Kong Rampage.
It is called The New Empire. See, if you would have put a gun to my head and say, what is the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie's subtitle? I would have said pull the trigger because I did not know it was called The New Empire.
You could have told me to my face and I would have said the same thing.
You thought it was
Star Wars.
The first Godzilla vs. Kong movie for a second.
Yeah, that's really bad. Sorry, guys.
The issue with these is what you had mentioned, and I think that's such a weird time because there's been another Godzilla movie that just came out.
Oh, -1. The Business. That was so good.
I haven't seen -1 yet, but I did see Shin Godzilla.
That
movie was awesome because it was what you had mentioned. That this is like, this is, if you're not picking up on the themes here, this is about, and this is what Godzilla's been about, but it's specifically a very horrific time in Japan history that has to deal with us here in America. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know. Read a history book, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
If you saw Oppenheimer and liked it,
There you go. There goes technically the origins of Godzilla. We bombed the hell out of Japan.
If you liked Oppenheimer, watch Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
You can think of it as a soft sequel.
It's very wild too, because after you told me you really wanna like talk about it and shit, and I was thinking about it, and then I was like, I like the Godzilla that came out in 2014 with Bryan Cranston.
I did like that one.
And Aaron
Taylor Johnson,
Yeah,
Elizabeth
and-
Olsen.
And
It was a good cast.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good movie. They never made a sequel. I thought they should have.
They did make a sequel. That's
To
the thing.
that?
So okay,
How did they make? They didn't make a sequel to that one.
they made a sequel to that one called Godzilla King of Monsters.
That was supposed to be the sequel to
That
that?
was the sequel.
Oh, because the Japanese cat.
He's the only one that returned.
That was him.
It's a revolving door of human people. I actually
They-
like King of Monsters.
But they did a shit job with that then, with explaining that was
No,
supposed to
no, no.
be...
You had to have kind of just like been aware. The only way I knew it was a sequel was the way Godzilla looked. Godzilla has the same look when I saw the trailers for this King of Monsters compared to the first 2014.
Okay, well,
Did you watch King of Monsters?
yeah, I did. I watched all the Godzillas up until now.
Okay. But you didn't like it.
It was okay. It was
was-
okay. It could, because it's a big shift from that 2014 one, and I really like that feel of it. And I didn't think it was a sequel.
This
because
one was
of the pictures I
bigger.
got.
It was less like the first Godzilla 2014 is very Cloverfieldian in the sense, I can't believe I used that. But it is, I love Cloverfield.
Cloverfield's
and
great.
I think that Godzilla 2014 had a similar sensibility to it. If you did not like Cloverfield, then yeah, you probably didn't like that movie, because it's very much like we're ants compared to this huge thing.
Yeah.
Which is what Godzilla is kind of about.
It is, and one of the things that I thought was interesting after I went back and looked at it is the American Godzilla movies. Godzilla is always fighting another monster.
Yeah.
The Japanese Godzilla movies is not always Godzilla fighting another monster. There's that story of a person in Godzilla showing up kind of like a natural accident.
Yeah.
A natural
Disaster?
natural disaster. I was going to say
Force of nature.
An occurrence. Yeah. But in like the perseverance of like trying to make it through and trying to tell like
Exactly.
a very human story of pressing on. And then America's just like, yeah, let's give them to fight other shit. Like
Big
consistently.
monster beat him up.
Yeah. Even the one that I loved, it was another monster he had to fight. And it's just like I didn't think about that until that moment. I'm like, man, that is very interesting. And you want to know the one where it wasn't a monster beat him up?
What?
But it was still weird. The one with John Cusack, the one that came out in '99.
That is an insane movie, by the way.
It is. Godzilla was shape-shifting in the sizes.
Yeah.
It wasn't for giant to not being giant.
Had a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Had a bunch of like velociraptor babies.
So yeah,
That movie's insane.
But that was the only one where it wasn't Godzilla fighting.
No, it
another
was Godzilla
monster.
terrorizing New York in a similar vein, but not nearly to that degree.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting that that's been our go-to for Godzilla.
Yeah.
And especially in a moment where it's cool to see you got these two different versions existing at the same time, because
Yeah.
Minus One was so different. I'm surprised you haven't seen it. It's a really good movie.
I know, I need to watch it.
And to the people who gave it an Oscar, you guys suck. Not because you gave it an Oscar, but because the Oscar that it got.
What did it get?
I think visual effects.
Oh, really? That's kind of crazy, though.
Yeah, no, it's more crazy if you watch it. And it's not because it's not good. Visual effects probably should have went to somebody else.
Well, this year's Oscars have forever been rebuked by me.
I don't like any of the Oscars.
Yeah, I've cooled on it significantly over the last decade. But this one really upset me, and this is no disrespect to The Boy and the Heron, but The Boy and the Heron won in the animation, won Best Animated Film,
Yeah.
instead of Across the Spider-Verse, which I just rewatched recently since I saw it
good.
twice in theaters.
Yeah, incredible.
And the whole time I was like, yeah, this is 14 different art styles happening at once. This character,
Cohesively.
yeah, this character art style changes frame by frame, but the Boy and the Heron won.
So one of the reasons why I don't like him is because those things is so Godzilla -1 so good. It blew expectations. They should have gotten an award. They definitely should have. Them being on it, but they should have been for something else. I felt like that was a consolation prize. Oh shit, people wouldn't shut up about it.
Yeah,
they're gonna look at us like shit if we don't give them something. So here, let's do something. That's like that we could just give them instead of giving them something that they truly like. That movie should have been up for. I don't know if it was up for Best Picture or not, but it should be up in that category. It was done so well.
That's the issue with sci-fi. And when I mean sci-fi, I mean in the greater scheme. If you want to look at comic book movies, if you want to look at movies about like monster movies, Godzilla, whatever genre you want to call it, at the end of the day, it's a sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
Sci-fi movies don't win Best Picture. I think I'm not gonna look at the lists of which ones did, but I'm sure you can count them on maybe 2 hands.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But I think that at the end of the day, that stems from that these are still pulp, right? That these are still, these aren't fiction. These are pulp fiction. These are things that you intake at, like, it's instead of the book that you get at a bookstore, you get these stories off of a spinner rack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get these off of a newsstand. You get these out of a bin. Sci-fi is always going to be relegated to that, and that's crazy.
It is. It's.
I'm gonna. The note for the listeners: I'm about to move my cat away from the scratching post.
It is, and it's very shitty because you do have. Let's be honest. The whole entire awards community for majority of these people is bought and paid for.
Yeah. There's a lot of politics that go into it.
Yeah, so much amount of politics that they're gonna do and not give people the recognition for it. But it's a damn shame that if you want to take stuff like sci-fi and say that these can't be great movies. Dune 2. It's an incredible.
Haven't seen it yet, but I will. I know.
It's fine. It was important to make.
I know. It's just I need to be able to. Dang.
But it's the storyline, the way it's driven, the things that they tell.
Yeah. The way it looks.
It covers so much. There shouldn't be like a small, narrow-minded category for something that could be considered to be a best picture, to be very well. One of the years when Uncut Gems was going on and run, and it came out that somebody didn't want to vote for Adam Sandler for a best actor because they're like, we got to see more from him doing serious roles because this is not enough. And it's like, that's not the reason for this. The best actor category, the best is because they did the performance that's up for something that is amazing.
It shouldn't be a campaign that you go on. It should be, this is what we think. This is the best that someone did this year.
This is what we have. This is what we narrowed it down to. What's the best out of that? Not based on this is the same person who made Happy Gilmore. Like, how am I supposed to take him serious? Because it's another fucking movie. That's why. That's how you take it serious.
This is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the issue. The awards, it's hard. At this point, you just kind of have to let it go. And that's what I did this year because of Across the Spider-Verse. Because like, if this movie didn't win Best Animation, which it's at this point has stemmed a new type of animation that people are trying to recreate. Because now everything's like, this is kind of Spider-Verse, isn't it? Everyone wants this to be a Spider-Verse. And to varying degrees of good and bad. Like, I haven't seen the new Ninja Turtle movie, but the animation looked really, really good. And I wanted to see it. And I heard good things from the right people, I'll say. Yeah. But I haven't seen it yet. But stuff like that, it started a new, okay, we need to try to recreate this. But whatever. That's just I could sit up here and defend the Spider-Verse movies to my dying breath.
That's yeah.
But just really quickly,
For Godzilla. Yeah.
Godzilla, King of Monsters 2. And that whole universe that they're doing, and we compare it to,
The New Empire.
Yeah, the new Empire. Comparing it to these other Godzilla movies that are happening simultaneously, I just want to say one thing. Those movies are insane. The two Godzilla versus Kong movies are bonkers. And I've heard people enjoyed the new one. I thought that I watched.
People enjoy meth.
I guess I watched Kong Skull Island. Did you watch Skull Island?
That was dope.
Kong Skull Island was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought that was great.
I know we talked about this, I think, at one point. Now that I remember that, I was like, holy shit, they changed the allegory of King Kong. Because I was watching it, I'm like, they made King Kong about Vietnam.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's a crazy, that's ambitious.
Very ambitious.
Because King Kong was about other topics.
I was like, you can explain this more than I can because I do not know.
Well, King Kong had other allegories.
He was a big monkey. So, that sticks out in my head way too much more than it should at sometimes. I was like...
Yeah, I mean, there's some weird allegories to the King Kong story.
Going after a white woman.
And honestly, that little monologue in Inglourious Bastards, where they talk about it, there's that whole bit in Inglourious Bastards where they're playing that game in the bar, and he thinks that he's talking about a slave, and the actual card is King Kong. That was really, really smart. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about.
I do now,
Yeah.
barely. I'm going to have to go and watch it again. But I do know the scene that you're talking about. I don't remember the story exactly.
But yeah, there's elements of that, and I feel like
smart.
Tarantino loves film. So like it makes sense that he would put something like that in there.
Yeah.
But however, Kong Skull Island, yeah, they completely changed the like metaphorical essence of King Kong. It was fun. It was dumb. It was cool. It was action packed, and they could have told 3 more movies about King Kong alone. But the next movie that they have him in, it's the Kong versus Godzilla is the Batman versus Superman of that franchise. Literally to a T. Where you're like, I haven't seen enough of these characters yet.
So rough.
But that's it. Those are my last 2 cents.
I like how they gave Kong pretty much the Infinity Gauntlet without stones.
They gave him Stormbreaker in the last one. So they're just giving him, and that's another thing. These movies are insane. I'm glad you mentioned it because these movies are insane. They feel like people that want to make a Marvel or like a comic book movie, but instead they were given Godzilla and Kong. And they're like, you know what? Let's do it. You know what? I don't care. I can show them that I can make a Marvel movie. We're gonna give Kong a big ol' axe. And in this new movie, I saw him. He has a big mech gauntlet.
I wonder if they know that there's like comic books for Godzilla and shit.
Yeah.
There's people who are like, we're gonna make this very comic book. And
There's
be like,
movies, there's comics about kaiju. Like the Pacific Rim fan base is huge. I'm not a huge fan of those movies.
When was the business?
The first one was fun, but not enough people, I remember at the time, were talking about it, and so I didn't get a part of the fan base. But they made another one, right?
Yeah.
I did not see that one.
Speaking to your practical effects, it is Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro, I was going to say, he worked on that, right?
The best, he did number 1.
Yes.
The absolute best when it comes to those practical effects and everything. And yeah, it was a business.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro does what he does best when it comes to these like sci-fi fantasy movies, which is like, we're going to put Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman's in there, right?
Ron Perlman is in damn near almost everything.
I know, but he's in Pacific Rim too.
Yeah,
I didn't want
he
to
is.
speak out of turn. We're gonna put Ron Perlman in a funny suit, and he's gonna fucking just steal the scene.
Yeah.
Because Guillermo del Toro gets it. Ron Perlman has a face that was made for these kind of stories. I love them.
Yeah, I do. It's amazing. Fuck, so good. I'm still mad that Hellboy 2 is like the hardest movie to find streaming because
That movie's amazing. I love the Golden Army.
It's like one of my favorite movies.
It's so fun. It's like Blade 2, which is my favorite of the Blade movies, and it's one of my favorite movies, period. It's like Blade 2, where it's like, we did this first one, and we're gonna go all the fuck out for the second one.
Everything was so dope.
And they even had the same guy in it, right?
The villain.
Yeah.
Played the villain, yeah.
Yeah, I love, great, no thoughts, no notes on those two movies.
I'm about to tell you, you're one of the best. You're one of the best. There is, by the time this releases, I'm trying to think of what the calendar looks like because I can't look at one. A little bit around the time of this release, if I am not mistaken, it will be before it happens, but it's still close to it, is Fallout.
Yeah.
Fallout will be coming out, and I have, to a lot of people's disappointment, never played Fallout.
I was gonna ask you because when we watched the trailer together,
I don't know anything. I don't know.
I was doing they did this.
I don't know shit. And it's funny because like two of my brothers, they love the Fallout series, and my brother loves New Vegas and whatnot. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there like, yep, I know what it looks like.
Another great showing for Ron Perlman. He did the trailers for the games.
I see. And it's one of those things. I don't know jack shit about Fallout coming out. But this is where we're talking about practical effects.
Yeah.
But
great segue.
But I'm looking forward to it so much, mainly because Walt Goggins.
Yeah.
Dude is incredible.
Love him.
Everything I've seen him in.
He's the biggest actor on that cast, in my opinion.
I think so.
He's the one.
He is, and he does a great job in it. And even watching the trailer, if you haven't watched the trailer, you get him.
He delivers a great line.
Yeah, you get him in two different ways.
Yeah, you do.
Which is very interesting to see, and it's kind of, for me, it's like, man, I wonder how that happened.
Yeah,
and it automatically pulled me into being like, I'm looking forward to watch this mainly because
just for him.
I want to see how this happens, and as the trailer goes on, you kind of get to see a bit of the story, you get a bit of the characters, even the main chick. She looked cool. Made it look interesting.
Yeah.
As going forward with it, with what it's going to be. So I'm kind of like, all right, this is kind of cool. Even though I know for a fact I have no fucking idea.
You played The Last of Us.
Yes.
I never got past the first diagonal building that you encounter in that game.
Yeah.
As soon as you have to essentially fight your first clicker in that building that's off kilter.
Yeah.
I have never gotten past that point. And I've tried playing it maybe twice.
Oh man.
I watched the show and of course fucking loved it. I had a blast watching it. Thought it was so good. I knew enough about the lore because you pick up on that kind of stuff. But yeah, I feel like this is kind of like a reverse of that.
Yeah.
Because I've played every Fallout after 3, obviously the big resurgence of those games. I love that universe. I've just been talking about replaying 4, and the thing about it is that a lot of people don't like Fallout 4, but I love that game. But whatever. I love that universe. I think that it's such a cool story. And watching the trailer, I'm excited. I've always thought that it has. You can tell a cinematic story, whether it be a movie or a show. I'm glad they're doing a show, but that's just because I think movie adaptations of media are so hard to do now.
Especially things that have a drawn out story.
Exactly. I think that you people now, what you can expect is they're gonna do it out of superhero stuff, and then they're gonna do it out of books right?
Yeah.
They're gonna do it out of comic books or books, because those sell usually. But video game adaptations and films have never done well.
Yeah, they've been mostly shit.
There's probably some ones that people like. There's a couple that I like, I'm sure. Don't quote me. But yeah, I think that the wave of doing it as a limited series or a series or whatever is a better way to do it. And obviously, after the success of Last of Us, I think we're going to see more of that. And I'm glad they're doing Fallout because I think it's super easy to adapt.
Yeah, it's the better route to go for that. Again, like you said, there's been so many games. The story is endless. There is more things to do with it as a series, compared to a movie. And the game adaptations into shows.
There's other ones.
Huh?
What other ones have they done? There's been a few other game. Oh, I haven't watched the Halo show.
I've only heard shit. About
I haven't heard
Halo
good things
show
about Halo
from fans of the game.
But that's the thing, and there's a specific.
From what I'm hearing about the show compared to the game is one of the things that came out was the writers did not play the game.
Right.
The fans of the game, and they weren't adapting things from the game. They were just essentially they're doing the Velma thing. We're still in the IP just because we want to do our own type of thing.
Right.
And yeah, you'll get some fans of that, but that core group.
Yeah, that's always a hard thing to do.
Fucking hates it. And but I can't remember some other ones right now on the spot. It'll come to me.
I know it's gonna
like the middle of the night when I'm not thinking about anything.
I think you don't have to look any further than Last of Us. That one.
They did a really good ass job, and it sets things up where I'm hoping. I love it, but another part that I am so on is Pedro Pascal was Joel. Mm-hmm. Pedro Pascal did do a phenomenal job, but he was also blowing up at the time. So my fear is for something like that it could be perceived by the wrong people who want to put these shows together that, oh, we just got to get a big star.
Right.
And instead of being like that, everything about that together was what made Last of Us great. It wasn't Pedro Pascal being a big star. No. It was the story.
No. It was Bella Ramsey was phenomenal.
Bella, their chemistry. Everything that played out together is what made that great and phenomenal, not Pedro Pascal.
It wasn't just Pedro Pascal.
And that's my fear about it, because you have things like God of War in the talks.
Oh yeah.
You have God of War in the talks for a show, and Christopher Judd voices Kratos. Yes. Mm-hmm. Christopher Judd is a big dude, and to not have Christopher Judd as Kratos would be a big miss.
Yeah,
would be a big miss. And then you got things like, what if we got The Rock or Dave Bautista to be Kratos? And it's like,
big fear there.
No, you have Kratos, and not only is it,
it's the Chris Pratt issue, right? It's the Chris Pratt as Mario issue.
Not this. Not that one. It's the fact that for these games that Christopher Judd he's doing the mocap.
Yeah.
So he's acting.
He's actually doing it.
Yeah. He's actually acting. So the game of the year that you loved,
and
the second one that you thought should have been game of the year because of that,
it's not just voice acting, which is also acting.
But
doing mocap is a big part of it too, and adds to the medium.
And you're getting that person, and some people who don't know any better are being like, maybe we should get somebody else. It's like, you have that person right there. You have Chris Judd.
It's going to be Jason Momoa.
Oh, God, that would be... And it's like, that would be a big miss and a big letdown for those type of things. But so far, these adaptations have not shown to be that effect yet.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping the yet never happens.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, because I don't want to see that happen to something like that where... Oh God! Imagine if they adapted. What is another big game that?
Oh man, Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, Red
that I-
Dead Redemption, and they're like, who's big right now?
I'd be worried they just recast Pedro Pascal. Like,
They'll do that.
like
Yeah.
that's my fear that they would just be like, you know, who would be great? Him.
Pedro Pascal, let's do it. People still love him, right? You know?
Which is true. Which is true. I love him too. I think he's great.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I'm excited for projects that he's doing in the future.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
We'll get to that another time.
Okay.
Because immediately I was like, oh, this is perfect. I was like, it's coming up on the end.
Yeah.
It's
hard to do.
Yeah, because that could draw out.
If
into
anything,
long
that's a
time.
good segue. What did we end the last session on? What was the thing that we were like, we can't talk about this yet? Was it Fantastic Four again? I think we did it both times.
Did it twice?
Yeah.
Did it twice? Ah, man.
This is the backdoor pilot of the next session we do.
I think we should just continually
Just mentioning at the end.
Ah, man. Well, next time.
But you know what? I don't have time to talk about Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Gosh. Because I think if it is the same thing, I think we did the exact same thing where just a brief minimum, no real info about it.
No.
And then just can't talk about that.
It could exist at any point in time too. That's what I like about it. There's no real opinion set on, and there's been a lot of stuff. At this point, there's been a lot of stuff about it. But you know what? We'll just wait.
We'll just wait.
We're gonna dedicate some time to it.
But when it comes to Fallout, are we watching?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm excited.
Same. I'm looking forward to it. I think that's gonna be. The shit. All right. Until whenever the shit is. You know what? I'm just gonna decide I'm not good at outros either. This is how I'm gonna take it. I'll sing about it, and then it's like, nah, just don't be good at it.
Thanks, everybody.